So today we're going to talk about the pathologizing of human emotion. Now, this is human emotion on all ends of the scale. This is not just one particular sort of human emotion, although I do want to start with hate. Now, as we know, with the great deplatforming going on, great only in size, not that I think it's great that people are being deplatformed, I think obviously the opposite. Hate has been essentially criminalized, and that you are no longer allowed to express hate on any sort of social media platform, or else you will be promptly booted off of it. Now, this is no longer confined to hate of a particular social minority group or ethnic group, religious group, whatever. I don't support that kind of hate. I think that it's reductive and simplistic and really kind of stupid. I mean, you're taking the easy way out by hating somebody just for some sort of demographic characteristic that they most likely were born with and can't really do anything about in any case. I do, however, support hating particular individuals who may have wronged you at some point in life, or wronged your society, or wronged your family, or in whatever way, say the ruling class, who have perpetrated this ruse that the American dream is still what's animating our society, propagandized our children from a very young age to believe that the government is working in their best interest, that we need to spend all of our money on war because they hate us for our freedom, etc., etc. You're familiar with the lies. You grew up with the same propaganda I did. Even if you're not American, we export our propaganda to the four corners of the globe. So chances are you're familiar with the story, the pulling oneself up by one's bootstraps in order to achieve a higher socioeconomic status than one's parents, live in a big house, drive 2.5 cars, or is it 2.5 kids? I can never really remember. It's 2.5 of something that doesn't come in point fives. Anyway, with your dog and your pool and the pool boy your wife is screwing behind your back. Oh wait, that's not part of the American dream. That's so easy to get confused. I mean, we know that the American dream is false, but we can't remember which parts of it are true and which parts of it are made up. So either way, we know that kids these days are growing up through the system, and they get to college and they take out hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans, and then they graduate and realize, oh wait, the American dream was a lie. I can't get a job with my gender studies degree, or even my science, technology, and mathematics degree. There's just nothing out there. There's certainly nothing that's going to help me pay back these student loans. Gosh, I hate these people who lied to me my entire life. That kind of hate is constructive because it might radicalize them politically. It might teach them to research a little more. Say, oh, if they lied to me about this, maybe they lied to me about this and this and this obvious political fantasies that animate us as a society. So hate is healthy. Hate that is directed at deserving recipients is healthy. It is a motivating factor. Do not let Facebook and company tell you you cannot hate. I mean, if you go by what they're saying, then Alex Jones was booted up InfoWars for hate speech against Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller lied to us for the better part of a decade as FBI chief under Bush, covering up for 9/11, bungling the anthrax scare that immediately followed 9/11. Basically almost hounding some poor scientist to suicide because he was persecuting this guy, and it turned out that he had nothing to do with it, and it was really yet another inside job. So hating Robert Mueller is a constructive thing. Robert Mueller is perpetrating this Russiagate hoax now. I mean, apparently his crimes during the Bush administration were not enough. He's got to go after the Trump campaign for supposedly colluding with Russia, and after 2 years can't find anything, so he just picks up whatever he can off the ground and indicts a bunch of penny ante internet trolls and calls it victory. So this guy is a schmuck. I mean, I personally don't think he's worthy of hate. I think he's just kind of pathetic and maybe worthy of disdain. But, you know, I can see why somebody would hate him, particularly somebody who maybe lost a relative in 9/11. Like, that would make me hate Robert Mueller. So that's a worthy subject of hate. But hate is not all we're going to talk about here tonight. Pathologizing sadness, calling it major depressive disorder, and prescribing extremely damaging substances to treat it. Now, just depression is a real thing. I'm not discounting that. However, I do find it very disturbing that I believe the latest statistic is 1 in 6 Americans is currently taking psychiatric medications. That's really scary. These drugs, for one thing, have never actually been proven via double-blind, placebo-controlled trials, which are the clinical standard in science, to work for treatment of depression. The serotonin imbalance hypothesis is just a hypothesis and not a particularly good one. It has been found. It's more likely that multiple neurotransmitters are involved. These drugs don't even necessarily really work to treat serotonin deficiency. They actually screw up your brain so that your brain no longer produces the correct amounts of its own serotonin. So if you stop taking them, you're really in trouble. And the whole idea is to make money for pharmaceutical companies by giving you a drug that you then have to take the rest of your life. These overdiagnosing things like major depressive disorder and ADHD is a great way to just keep people coming back for every month of their life to the psychiatrist's office where they get a refill for their prescription and they go fill that refill and the drug company gets a big fat check. And these disorders, for the large part, don't exist. Most people who have major depressive disorder are just reacting to the really depressing situations that they live in, that their society perpetrates, that they themselves don't really understand is a problem. Once again, the American dream is a lie, and so people grow up and they don't realize that's what is missing from their lives. Even the ones who manage to succeed materially, who manage to amass some wealth, there's a great void at the center of their lives because they have no meaning, because they aren't taught to look for meaning beyond what they can buy with their paychecks. And so they go into the psychiatrist's office saying, oh, I'm depressed. What can you do to help me? Rather than, try to get to the bottom of things, say, hey, well, maybe you shouldn't just, try to buy a new car or, pick up a girl every time you're sad about life. Maybe you should try to better yourself and understand that you have to actually leave the world a better place than you found it if you want to actually be satisfied with your life. But no, it's much easier to just write a prescription and then, whoops, you've just medicalized a very valid form of sadness or ennui or depression or whatever, and just poo-pooed it. No, we can't be sad. We're America. We're the best country in the world. So if our citizens are all depressed and killing themselves, well then that's not going to look very good for the global happiness index now, is it? So here, be on your merry way. I got this pill just for you. It's going to be great. Now, unfortunately, I know this firsthand because when I was growing up, I was diagnosed with depression. Now, I was growing up in a small town that was full of benighted individuals who didn't really see anything to aspire to in life beyond popping out 6 kids and watching the game with a beer in hand and a crack pipe in the other. So this was a very depressing place for somebody with intellectual aspirations, and so I was depressed. But of course, living in the society that we live in, instead of being told, oh, well, don't worry, you'll be off to college soon in some place where humans have higher aspirations than popping out 6 kids, etc., etc., I was used as a guinea pig with a succession of antidepressant drugs, many of which are no longer legal to prescribe to teenagers because it keeps making them kill themselves or kill other people. Now, I did neither of these things, obviously, as you're still talking to me and not through the bars of a jail cell. However, I can see why somebody might, because, there were times if somebody had put a semi-automatic weapon into my hand, I might have been tempted to use it on somebody. But, bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people. Funny how that works. That wasn't where I was going with that statement at all. However, funny, once I moved to the city and started immersing myself in a community that actually shared my values, my depression vanished quite rapidly, and I no longer had to take these drugs in order to not feel like shit. And then later in life, when I graduated from college and was forced to work a series of meaningless jobs in order to pay my massive rent, I was depressed again and was told that I should be taking psychiatric drugs for this depression. But I didn't, because I remembered that, these things are largely situational. And having found fulfilling employment since then, I find that I'm not nearly as depressed as I was. Funny how that works. Inspect your situation before you go running for the prescription pad, please. You don't want what these drugs do to your brain. They will make it so your brain cannot produce its own serotonin, and then if you ever get caught without your precious drugs, prepare for a life of misery, basically. Let's see, what else? Pathologizing anxiety, which, it can be argued that that's not really an emotion, and nobody really likes anxiety, but it's there for a reason. Sometimes things that make you anxious are things that you should be anxious about. If you're just going to run around blithely through life not worrying about anything, then, chances are you're going to miss a few things. Now, given the 24/7 fear-based propaganda, well, whether it's the terrorists at the doorstep or the pedophiles inside the house, if we weren't anxious about something, I would say that we're not paying attention. Now, while yes, this is propaganda, not really to be believed, anxiety does serve a purpose in that, there are a lot of things that you might stress out about that need your attention quite rapidly. So if you're being stalked by a tiger and instead of being like, oh shit, there's a tiger behind me, I better run, you pop a Xanax and just like chill, then yeah, you're gonna get eaten. So we're going against the evolutionary imperative. But that's neither here nor there. Just basically the fact that they've pathologized anxiety while continuing to shove fear propaganda down our throat. I mean, of course we're going to be torn in both directions, and it's going to make us even more anxious and make us pop even more Xanax, most likely because you really can't get anything done if you're just chowing down on Xanax. Now, while there are some people who require this stuff to function, once again, the vast proportion of people who are taking these drugs do not actually require them and are being given them in order to produce them to non-functional human beings. One, should the drugs ever be taken away, God forbid, but meanwhile just as another paycheck for the large pharmaceutical companies. I would say probably even worse than antidepressants, because anxiety at least can be a motivating factor to get things done. Depression obviously is not. When you're depressed, you just want to lie in bed all day. Antidepressants don't really help with that. They just make you like sweat while you're lying in bed all day. I don't know. Having been on basically every antidepressant drug there is at some point in my life, I found that pretty much all of them, except for one, just make you like fat and sweaty in addition to your depression, so they don't even work. What the fuck is the point? Besides making you into a giant walking check for Big Pharma. But yeah, so depression, anxiety, hate, anger, obviously. If you have anger, you have some sort of, let's see, if you're a kid, you've got oppositional defiant disorder, which is just like basically puts you on the school to prison pipeline for sure, because they say, oh well, you know, that's the kid's version of being a psychopath or being a sociopath. We better watch this kid really close. So if you hit little Susie because she stole your lunch, then you're not just going to the principal's office, you're going to juvie, dude. So yeah, the anger has been pathologized heavily in children and also pathologized in adults, which if, you know, if we're angry, we're supposed to chill. We're supposed to, like, relax, meditate, you know, don't get so stressed, don't be so uptight. Well, you know, there's a lot to be uptight about. I mean, the aforementioned, like, fraud that has been perpetrated upon us from our youths as we are propagandized to believe that, you know, our government only wants what's best for us. We're upholding the ideals of freedom and democracy in the world, and therefore we must kill all these people halfway around the world because they don't like our freedoms. They're just jealous. Yeah, I know, I'm totally just jealous of my country spending like more than half of every dollar on murdering innocent civilians. It's so like, I just need this in my life. But wait, I live in a country that does this. Oh man, this is what happens when you put yourself in other people's heads. You get confused. Has confusion been pathologized yet? Not quite, because confusion is feeds, right? They need you confused. That's the only state you could possibly believe their ludicrous propaganda, which, I mean, they don't even try too hard anymore. Now it's just like Rachel Maddow crying, and you're supposed to believe whatever comes out of her mouth in between the tears. I'm sorry, once the news anchors start like crying as a scheme to get ratings, then you know your country is in a state of irreversible decline. So I guess the point is, if you are feeling any strong emotions at all, especially ones that might motivate you to either make positive change in your own life or positive change in your society or even your family, we can't have that. Drug companies are standing by to knock those emotions right out of your head with a trusty prescription, which hopefully you'll have to refill every month for the rest of your life. If not, well, you know, maybe you can get your children in to have their own prescriptions. You'll have to refill every month for the rest of their lives. Because that's exactly what it is. We can't have you setting a bad example for the children by having emotions, making positive changes in your life. What the fuck is that shit? You know, right now we have more than 1 million kids under the age of 6 currently taking psychiatric drugs. That's really fucked up. Any way you look at it, that's fucked up. I mean, there is no world in which, like, 1 million kids under the age of 6 heavily medicated with powerful psychotropic medications is a good thing. There's just no way. I don't understand how this works. You might think, oh, well, you know, they're so, like, difficult to manage at that age. Always running around and having all this energy and shit. We gotta do something about that. Well, dude, what the fuck you expect when you had kids, man? You think they're just gonna sit there like a bump on a log? Have you never seen children? Well, maybe you have and you only saw heavily medicated ones. I don't know, man. I just don't understand how, like, parents allowed this fraud to be perpetrated on them. Obviously, yes, your doctor has convinced you that little Johnny is distressed and he's having trouble in school, so he needs this pill which will magically make him better and he'll be the dream picture perfect child. And the only problem is it's extremely addictive amphetamine. But, you know, like, amphetamines are good for you. It starts with A, vitamin A, and maybe it's related to, I don't know. I mean, this is science. We can't trust you with the details. So, like, just, give him pills every day in the morning. Don't give him them at night because he won't be able to sleep because you're giving him speed. But, yeah, a million kids under 6 are taking this shit. Dude, this is how you know your society's fucked up. So yeah, set a good example for the kids. Acknowledge your emotions. Act on them. Act in the right way. Don't act in a stupid way, like running to the psychiatrist's office. Things like hate, anger, they may not be pretty to look at, but they inspire you to act, to change your situation that is making you hate, that is making you angry. Things like depression, you're motivated to get out of that state because it makes you fucking miserable. Maybe because your life is missing something. Maybe you want to go out and find what it is. Obviously, if you're depressed, it's a little harder to get out of bed in the morning, but, at some point, whatever, maybe call in friends and family as reinforcements. Just don't, resort to what they've presented as the easy way out, which is not even an easy way out. It's a trap. Don't fall into it. The same people who propagandize you all your life are not going to tell you the truth about how to fix your emotional problems. In fact, they are motivated to do the exact opposite because that keeps you coming back to their propaganda. So, I mean, I guess that's it. So don't let them pathologize your emotions. Cherish them. They're all you got. They're what makes you human.